Our final construction to learn is a geometric mean. A geometric mean problem looks like x is equal to the square root of two things multiplied together, so like a times b. When we studied this, we looked at a picture that looked like this, where we had a right angle up at the top. We dropped down a height, so we got a couple more right triangles inside of there. We had A and B next to each other, and we called the height C. Here we're just going to call it X, and that X is going to be our answer. So like in the last lesson where we were given some segment lengths and we were looking for another segment length, that's what we're doing here. We'll be given some segment lengths, and then we're looking for a particular segment length of the height of that triangle. So that picture at the top is what we're going to try to recreate with our construction. So to do these problems, you will be given, or you decide at the beginning of your problem, some segment lengths. And then we need a long line to build our construction on. Our first step is going to be to place A and B on the line. So we're going to take our compass and point on one end, pencil on the other, measure out how big A is, and mark that out from the end of the line that we drew. So from the beginning of it, I want to mark out a length that is the same as whatever I decided A was going to be. And then from the end of that, mark out a segment that is the length of however big I decided B was going to be. So in trying to recreate that picture, we now have A next to B. Now we need a right angle up at the top of this thing. The way we're going to ensure that we get a right angle up at the top of this thing is by creating this whole picture inside of a semicircle. Because we talked about how if you have a semicircle, pretend like that's a good semicircle. If you have a semicircle, any angle that you draw inside of a semicircle will be a right angle. So what we want to do now is enclose this thing inside of a semicircle. So to do that, our next step is going to be to find the midpoint. So we're going to find the midpoint of the line with A and B. I really need more room at the bottom of my page to do this, because to do a midpoint, what you do is you place your compass point at one end of the segment and make a mark above and below. And I didn't really leave myself any room to make marks below here, so I'm just going to kind of have to cheat on it. Not that any of my constructions on the iPad have been very accurate anyway. But put your compass point at one end and place a mark both above and below. I don't have room to do below, but you will need to do below. And then from the other end, place a mark above and below so that you'll get two X's to connect through. I only have the one X, but you really need two X's to connect through.
From the end of B or from the end of the line?
Oh. From the end of B. So you're placing your compass point at the beginning of A and at the end of B. So we're finding the midpoint of that, because the line that we made originally was just random length. We just drew a line of whatever length. So now really the only part of this that we care about is the part that has A and B on it. So we want to find the midpoint using the beginning of A and the end of B. Thank you for asking to clarify that. I didn't say that clearly. So we now found a midpoint here that I'm going to label M for midpoint. And what we want to do now is create that semicircle. We're going to put compass point on the midpoint and pencil at the beginning of A, or it could really be the end of B, because they should be the same. And draw a semicircle. So I put my compass point at the midpoint, and my compass pencil is not working. Compass point at the midpoint, compass pencil on A, and draw a semicircle that should hit A and B.
Would it work with a whole circle?
Yes, you can draw the whole circle if you want. Since I was using a circle drawing tool instead of using my compass, it did draw the whole circle. It's a little off. My iPad constructions have yet to be perfect, so. But it should hit the beginning of A and the end of B and kind of enclose that segment. Now, anywhere I draw an angle inside of there should be a right angle, but we want to put it at one specific place. So if we're trying to recreate that picture, what we need now is we need a perpendicular line where A and B meet each other. So around the point at the end of A and beginning of B, so this point here that I'm marking in green, where A and B meet each other, we want to create a perpendicular. Since it's on that line, we're going to be using our parentheses method. So our last step is make perpendicular where A meets B, and this is our parentheses. So around that green point, make some parentheses. And then open up your compass a little bit wider. And from the parentheses, make marks. So I get an X to connect and make a perpendicular. The answer is going to be from the line up to the circle along that perpendicular we just made. So what I'm coloring here is recreate the picture. We would need to and make that triangle there. If you want to do that, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to, because we don't really need those sides of the triangle. What we just really need is that height of the triangle. But now this picture is totally recreated from the top. Then we have A next to B. We have a right angle inside of a semicircle, and then we have the right angle down at the bottom. And our answer is the height along that perpendicular where A meets B from the, that's what you would need to call. You have two homework problems on this. The first one is this, square root of AB. Okay, you'll do the same exact construction. That's your first one on this. Your second construction asks you to do x is equal to 2 square roots of AC. Okay, so for this one, you'll need to do A and C instead of A and B. But then it's got that 2 there. So what is the easiest way to multiply your answer by 2? So in the sketching, what we'll have in the end is we're going to have A, we're going to have C, and this is the construction that we made where we had this semicircle here. What would be the easiest way to get double that length? And somebody actually already hit on it. Make the whole circle. If you make the whole circle, this part across the top of the circle should be the same as the part across the bottom of the circle since that's the diameter. And so just color, make a full circle and color the entire chord going across the circle. And that's the easiest way to get double the length.
Would it work the same if you took your compass and just measured it and then
Yep.
copied it?
Yep, it should be exactly the same as if you took your compass and measured that segment and then copied it down right next to each other along the same straight line. It should be exactly the same thing.
So instead of AC, it's just AB, just two variables.
Right, so since it's A and C, I'll just use segments length A and length C instead of A and B. Yep, and then since it's got the 2 in front, you'll want the whole circle.